All right. Everybody ready? Now, I will tell you this. For the parts that tell us about the brain, how we measure today, new technology, the EEGs, the PET scans, the CAT scans, the MRIs, and the fMRIs, look over that PowerPoint. It's part of Edmodo. You can dig through and find it and save it and go through. But you need to know what those do. Know which two get paired up. Remember we did the stupid mnemonic PET egg, and I know it's EEG, not EGG, but shut up, it's mnemonic. Those two go together. Let us know, be able to tell me what that does. What do those do? They give me structure or they give me activity. Know what a lesion is. Oh, also know the fMRI is the only one that can give us both. Know the brain regions in age, evolutionarily speaking, from oldest to newest. As a hint, I will tell you that our cerebral cortex is the youngest part of our brain. It's what allows us to have the conscious awareness that we do. Then you need to know parts of the brain: the medulla, cerebellum, reticular formation, amygdala, hypothalamus, thalamus. Know the lobes of the brain and what's associated with those lobes, like the frontal lobe. Know that we talked about a lot of your personality being there, your planning, your processing, but also know in the frontal lobe what cortex do you have. Somebody know? What cortex is on the frontal lobe? It's the motor cortex. All right. So you need to know about the motor cortex and the sensory cortex. They are side by side, but the sensory cortex is not on the motor, it's on the parietal. Make sure you understand how the amount of tissue given will determine if you're very sensitive or if you have that dexterity. It's not the size of the body, it's how much the brain tissue is given to it. Know what consciousness is and where it would be controlled. Know what part of the brain does its thing without us being aware of it at all. Know what would happen if we damage certain parts of the brain. You're going to get asked about damage to the occipital lobe, the parietal lobe. Know what aphasia is. And with aphasia, know the difference between the two that we studied, Broca's and Wernicke's. Remember, Broca's, your language is broken. That English girl, when they were asking her questions, and they said, well, tell us what happened in class. And she said, I can't. And then went and said, stroke, arm tingling. She knew what she wanted to say. She understood language, but she couldn't produce it. And then that little old guy who, and this is still how I say goodnight to my daughter every night now, he was the one that spoke fluently and it came out beautifully, but it didn't make any sense. Remember the old man that when saying goodbye, he said, I hope the world lasts for you. That's where Nikki's aphasia, where you can produce the language, it just doesn't always make sense. And the little old lady that was saying, or she actually was saying, she also had Wernicke's aphasia. Understand what happens if you lose one of your senses. Understand brain plasticity and what that would do to other parts of the brain. Understand what we call lateralization. That's when your right hemisphere does jobs better than your left, and your left hemisphere does some jobs better than right. We talked about it, but I never used the phrase lateralization, so do make sure you understand that that's the term. Know what Michael Gazzaniga showed us about split brain patients when he splits the corpus callosum. Remember, he was the one doing the trick with the one guy where he could do all things with his left hand but not tell you what he saw. Make sure you understand that. Make sure you understand that the right hemisphere doesn't have language, but it does understand some things. It's better at finding a connection between words. The left hemisphere is the logical. You give the left hemisphere a list of words, and it'll come up with a logical next word. The right hemisphere is really good at seeing how those words are connected. All right. Make sure you understand that language is language. It doesn't matter what type you speak, or even if it's spoken at all. It is all stored in the same area. Know the definition of consciousness. When we talk about nature versus nurture, make sure you understand what each of those are. I described this, but I did not use these terms. And I'm pretty sure I did it using schizophrenia. Remember I said you can have a biological predisposition, but if you live a life where you don't enter into a certain environment, you'll never develop it. What that is talking about is you have active and inactive genes. An inactive gene would be somebody that is likely to develop schizophrenia, but because they're never in that environmental situation, don't. When the gene turns on, it's active and you develop that behavior or that disorder or whatever the case may be. Then know the you have to be able to put in order from smallest to largest the chromosomes, the genes, and the DNA. So remember the book analogy, be able to walk it backwards. Know the difference between identical and fraternal twins and what these studies told us about certain behaviors. What it told us about personality, what it told us about intelligence, what it told us about temperament. Those are the type of things that are genetic. Then understand what the adoption studies showed us, and make sure you understand how both of them work, the twin studies and the two different ways we use twins, and the adoption studies. You'll have to tell me what the home environment does influence greatly. Know the definition of heritability. Know how genes and the environment interact to dictate behavior. Then it goes into evolutionary psych. Make sure you understand the difference between selective breeding and natural selection, reproductive success. Make sure you know what Belyaev and Trust did with the wild foxes and how they got them domesticated. Make sure you know how evolutionary psychologists would explain different behaviors. Think about, does it allow you to survive? Then know what evolutionary psychologists say about our choice in mates, who we find attractive. And then, last but not least, know what the criticisms of evolutionary psychology are. All right? Okay, we turn those off. That, my friends, are the 47 questions that will be your test on Wednesday, unless, of course, you were taking it tomorrow, in which case it will be the test tomorrow. Those of you that are testing on Wednesday, when you come in tomorrow, you will have a